In this video I'm going to be taking a look at FNaF fan games that came out in 2014. FNaF fan games started to become popular in January 2015, fittingly at the start of FNaF's biggest year. So let's take a look at what some of the earliest FNaF fan games were like. I'd like to make a disclaimer, this video is on 2014 FNaF fan games, so I'm only talking about games that came out in 2014. If the game had a full release, update or sequel made after 2014, I'll acknowledge it, but I won't be going into much detail about it. To start this off, let's talk about some FNaF fan games that actually got released before FNaF 2 even came out. Let's first talk about the first FNaF fan games. There's two Scratch FNaF fan games, both released on the same day, 27th of August 2014. One of these games apparently came out earlier than the other one, and that was Five Nights at Freddy's Scratch Edition. The game was made by 3D developer. The game contains 3 nights, each having a different game mode. You have Survive, where you have to see how long you can survive for, there's Power, where you have a limited supply of power, and there's Custom, where you change a character's difficulty. In this game mode you have a door timer, which shows you how long you can close the doors for. So this game has very similar gameplay to FNaF 1. You have a door on your left and right. You've got to shut it if an animatronic gets there. Bonnie attacks from the left and Chica attacks from the right. Freddy also attacks from the right, and this time doesn't get slowed down by you watching him. There's also Foxy, who will run at the right door. This time won't be slowed down by you viewing the cameras. So this game was all hand drawn, and it does look amateur, but this was the first FNaF fan game ever made. I'm not sure what the black parts in animatronic's faces are supposed to be. Is it their mouths? The map layout is not the same as FNaF 1. Some of the rooms are the same, such as the show stage, the backstage, and Pirate Cove. There's only one hallway instead of 2, which actually doesn't lead to your office. Cam 3A and Cam 3B are the ones that lead to your office, and are also the ones with unique rooms. Cam 3A just has loads of cupboards, so maybe it's supposed to be the kitchen. And Cam 3B looks like it's supposed to be outside, but I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be. This game is unplayable, which isn't at all surprising given its age. In survival you can just keep the door shut without doing anything, the lights don't even work, and if your power runs out in power mode, you won't actually die. This game actually became lost media at some point before being found on the 16th of January 2022 by RustyGamer29. Let's move on to the other Scratch game, Lizzy Lizard's Hamburgers, made by 11 Builder Boy 11. You could say this was the first FNaF fan game to have original animatronics and an original location. Well, there's only one animatronic, Lizzy Lizard. That's right, this is the first original animatronic for a FNaF fan game. This game only has one endless night. You have a door on your right, so you're supposed to close if Lizzy appears there. You have a monitor where you can view 5 cameras. You also have power usage, and if you look at cam B1, your power will drain. In B1, there's also 2 animatronic heads, but I don't know who they are. As you would expect, the game is unplayable. Lizzy can just kill you at any moment, typically without showing up at the door first. So yeah, this is what the first FNaF fan games were like. But what was the first 3D FNaF fan game? That title goes to Five Nights at Freddy's. The game was made by Vulgarstor. It was released on Google Play and unknown date. There was a video by Vulgarstor released on the 8th of September 2014, which shows that the game was complete. Sadly, this game is now lost. However though, this is where things get interesting. There were a lot of reskins of this game, the most well known one being Five Nights at Buddy's, which is actually still available. It's basically just a FNaF 1 clone with poor graphics and very buggy gameplay. Something funny is that when you get jump scared, the jump scares just freeze and you won't actually die. So yeah, this is the first 3D FNaF fan game. Hopefully one day someone will find this game. Now I'd like to talk about a cancelled FNaF fan game that began development in September 2014. Five Nights at McDonald's. The game was made by Vortex Softworks. This is believed to have been the first FNaF fan game to have a game drop page. This game was also going to have a narrative to it. The only information we have on the game's story is that McDonald's had people dress up as their characters, Ronald McDonald, Grimace, Birdie, and the Hamburglar. The actors have been enslaved and are forced to work at McDonald's all day and all night. If the actors break character, take off their costume, or harm anyone, they'll be killed. Although when McDonald's closes for the night, they didn't have to follow any of this. But at night, they would get hungry. You'd play as an employee who is taking the night shift at McDonald's. I guess the mascots are turned cannibalistic and are trying to eat you. According to the game's description, you would have had to have survived from 12 AM until 6 PM, which I'm guessing is just a typo and they meant 6 AM. Each night would have lasted 6 minutes. There were 3 videos released for the game. One was a 5-second video which was released on the 21st of September 2014. It showed the player closing the left and right door. Its gameplay would have been very similar to FNaF 1. The second video was released on the 21st of October 2014. This was actually a trailer for the game. Well, sorta. It's actually just a slightly edited version of a fake cursed McDonald's commercial by Kurt Flirt 2. The video shows a woman getting a phone call from Ronald McDonald, who is outside her house. One last video was posted on the 22nd of December 2014, which showed more gameplay. They showed the player looking at the cameras. The rooms are dark and are made out of white brick textures. There's a flashlight mechanic which makes the rooms brighter. There's a stage camera where you can see the Hamburglar. At the end of the video it shows a Hamburglar running down the hallway. Then he appears at your left door, then the video ends. This was the last post we got in relation to Five Nights at McDonald's. At some point the GameStop page was made unlisted. The game was cancelled probably sometime in early 2015. I've heard rumours that a playable alpha was released at one point but has since been removed, but I couldn't find any proof of any release build of the game. Given how slow the development was of this game, it probably wouldn't have left any impact on FNaF had it been released. But it's still interesting to see that an attempt at making what at the time was a high quality FNaF fan game before FNaF 2 was even announced. Remember how I said that there was a lot of reskins of Five Nights at Teddy's? Yeah, well, Vortex Softworks actually made a reskin called Five Nights at Bikini Bottom. It was released in late December 2014, possibly making it the first SpongeBob FNaF fan game. The game is now lost. Maybe he gave up on Five Nights at McDonald's and started to reskin games. I don't know if Vortex Softworks worked on any other FNaF fan games, but I'd be interested to know if they did. The next FNaF fan game I'm going to be talking about was the first semi-popular FNaF fan game, Creepypasta Castle. The game was made by Massacre. It was released as a demo on the 12th of October 2014. The full game was released on the 21st of November 2014, but the full game is now lost. Before continuing, I would just like to clarify that Creepypasta Castle is not a FNaF 1 mod. Many people think that it was because Riskrim called it a FNaF mod in the title of his Let's Play, but that is actually not correct. The office used in the game is a FNaF 1 office, and the rooms and the cameras are all made up of reused images from other sources. The enemies in the game are Pinkie Pie, Ben.exe, Sonic.exe, and Tails Doll, each appear in a creepypasta. This is yet another FNaF 1 clone. You've got to close the left and right door whilst having limited power. Pinkie Pie attacks from the left door and Ben.exe attacks from the right door. I didn't counter anyone else. Like every other game I've talked about, this game does not work whatsoever. You can't open the doors after closing them. That combined with the fact that the power goes down really quickly means you're guaranteed to run out of power. Like I said, this is only the demo and the full version is lost. Riskrim played the full version and it did fix a few bugs. You actually can open the doors and the power goes down slower. However though, the power still goes down really quickly. The nights only last for 2 minutes, which is very short. In the full version, Sonic.exe acts like Foxy. He'll run down the hallway and you have to close the door before he gets to you. The game still appears to be broken, with the power still going down fast to the point where you'll run out of power before the night is over. You can also just die for no reason, and sometimes you'll get jump scared during the game over screen. Riskrim only beat Night 2 because of an exploit. This game has a variant to the Death Alive jump scare glitch. When Sonic.exe ran down the hallway, the monitor buttons disappeared and everyone's AI was deactivated. Yeah, there isn't a monitor panel, instead you just have these buttons stuck around the cameras and how you get back to the office. It doesn't end there though, because there was actually a Creepypasta Castle 2 released on the 3rd of January 2015. This game is completely lost. It's basically just a FNaF 2 clone but with creepypasta characters. The game seems to be more functional than the first game based off a few videos of the game. Babsaku is probably the first well-known FNaF fan game developer to make a FNaF fan game. She later made Ultimate Nintendo Night in 2018 and was part of the defunct development team, Team Scientix. Now yes, the Creepypasta Castle games are terrible and didn't really leave an impact on FNaF, but it would be cool if these games could get found, as they are some of the earliest FNaF fan games ever made. At least we have the demo for the first game, which predated FNaF 2. The next game I'm going to be talking about is Five Nights at Freddy's 3D. The game was made by Void Production. The game began development in September 2014. On the 26th of October 2014 a demo was released. The demo appears to be lost, but it was played by the one and only Ayutum. The demo just has you walking around a room with I6 and his Freddy, Bonnie and Chica on stage. If you walk towards a wall opposite the stage, you'll find a hallway and you'll encounter Golden Freddy, who will kill you if you touch him. I don't think there's much to this demo, but on the 23rd of December 2014 another demo was released. This one had a lot more content to it. So this game was made on an engine called Terra Engine. This is an engine that was intended for amateurs who don't know coding or modelling and want to make a horror game. The game takes place in what is supposed to be the FNaF 1 location, although I think it's made up of default assets from Terra Engine. You start off in the office. In front of you on the desk you can view cameras around the location. Freddy, Bonnie and Chica are on the stage and Foxy is in Pirate Cove. None of them are threats though. Behind the show stage there is a door which leads to the outside of the pizzeria. Outside of the pizzeria is this area with a ruined building in the middle. On the other side is an abandoned building which you can't enter. You're supposed to collect 5 floppy disks before returning to Freddy's. I have no idea why you're collecting floppy disks, but that's just what you're supposed to do. The floppy disks will be in the same place every time. One is next to a small building with a stairway. Outside of the pizzeria there's a rubble where another floppy disk can be found. Inside the ruined building you'll find a skeleton. The player then says, "Jesus Christ, what the fuck happened here?" Next to the skeleton is another floppy disk. Another one can be found between a large abandoned building and a wall. In the corner of the wall opposite the building with a stairway is the last floppy disk. You're supposed to bring a flashlight and night vision goggles when you're at the pizzeria. However, I didn't even realise they were there and forgot to pick them up. You don't really need them though, it just makes it easier to see the floppy disks. There is one enemy and that is Golden Freddy. He'll slowly stalk you, and I mean slowly. He'll never catch up to you. The only way he could hurt you is if you ran into him. If you touch Golden Freddy, your screen will be covered in an absurd amount of blood and you won't be able to see well for about 15 seconds. If he touches you too many times, you die. You also need to find a key which is located in the abandoned building. When you find the key, you can unlock the building with a stairway. You'll then be in a brick room with a metal door. When you go through the door, you'll end up back at the pizzeria. The power is now out and the animatronics are spazzing out. Next to Pirate Cove, there's a chest full of money, which I thought was collectible when I first played this. After you return to the office, you were told to go to the supply closet where the game ends. After the second alpha's release, the GameStop page was left abandoned, and there were no more updates on the game. Until January 2021. Void Production made a post confirming that the game was long cancelled. They said that they might make more games, but it's been 4 years now and there hasn't been anything new posted. Now let's talk about what is commonly misconcepted as being the first FNaF fan game, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Massacre. The game was made by Zamins and was released as a beta on the 6th of November 2014. In this game you play as Zamin Hexnode, who has been hired to shoot down all the Freddy Fazbear robots. Zamin Hexnode is what Zamins went by at the time. So this game is more so a FNaF parody than a FNaF fan game. It's a first person shooter where you have to do exactly what the job application says. Kill all the fuzzy bastards. You start off outside of a military base. There is a lot of tanks but you can't go inside them. There's also a goldfish for some reason, who I don't think does anything. When you open the doors, these Freddys will come at you and start shooting you. Now this was made in an engine called FPS Maker. I'm guessing the models are all just default assets and the Freddys are just NPCs wearing all orange and have Freddy masks. This game is formatted like a generic FPS game. You can switch between weapons, you have a health bar and you just have to kill all the enemies. To begin with, you have a pistol. When you kill an enemy, they'll drop their weapon, which will either be a pistol or a shotgun. Behind the doors where the Freddys came from is just a maze of black walls. On the right side of the entrance there's a hall that leads to a door. Next to the door is an NPC who appears to be harmless. When you enter the door, you'll be in an office, then you'll get a paycheck that you got at the end of FNaF 1, but instead you earn $19.87, and that's the end of the game. Interestingly, the version of the game that's available is actually an updated version that was released 2 days later. Riskrim played the original version, so we can see what it looked like. You start off in the office, which is where the updated game ends. This version had an RPG, which was removed probably due to it being too OP, but the game is really easy even with just a pistol, so it didn't really mean much. There was also a Golden Freddy who was removed in the update. I don't think there's any footage of an encounter with him, so I have no idea what he did. In this game, Golden Freddy is actually referred to as Yellow Bear, which as you all know, Golden Freddy was originally named Yellow Bear, but because people kept calling him Golden Freddy, its name eventually caught on. And when FNaF 2 came out, Yellow Bear was canonically renamed Golden Freddy in the custom night. There's many other FNaF fan games that came out before FNaF 2, but these are the most noteworthy ones that I'm aware of. There were many FNaF games made on Roblox as well as some Gmod FNaF content, but these aren't really the same as FNaF fan games and maybe deserve their own video. Every FNaF fan game I'll be talking about going forward came out after the release of FNaF 2, but before the reveal of Springtrap. In 2014, rage games were very popular, and there were attempts at making FNaF 1 and 2 even harder than their max modes. On the 20th of November 2014, Five Nights at Freddy's Hard Edition was released by Cosmiskist. So, how does this game play out? FNaF Hard Edition, more like FNaF Impossible Edition. Now if you think the AI is turned up extremely high, you'll be wrong. It's actually programmed so that if you close a door you'll get jump scared. It'll be Foxy if you close the left and it'll be Freddy if you close the right, and then you'll get jump scared by Golden Freddy, who was just a Freddy power outage jump scare but recolored yellow. That being said, if you don't click anything, no one will ever kill you. So you can just do nothing and then you'll win, right? Actually, nothing will happen. This game is endless until you click something. Enough said, now let's talk about a different FNaF rage game, Unfair Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Except for the fact that I can't really talk about it much because it's lost media. The game was released sometime in December 2014. It was made by Kiddu the Man, who would later make Five Nights at Freddy's Fredbear. There's a video by a YouTuber which shows that it was a lot more functional than FNaF Hard Edition. The video shows a puppet, Mangle, Balloon Boy and Foxy. It seems like they'll just kill you no matter what and the game is impossible. There's another video by TP Gaming which also briefly shows gameplay of an Unfair Five Nights at Freddy's 1. This shows a bug where you just won't die. I don't know how you would have activated this bug, but it happened. However though, the game is still impossible because when you get to 6 AM, nothing happens. There was later an unfair Five Nights at Freddy's 3, but that obviously came out in 2015, so I won't be covering that. The only thing I will say is that game is also lost. This is another trilogy of lost FNaF fan games that needs to be found. The next game I'm going to be talking about is Escape from Freddy's, made by Hey It's Joe B. It was released on the 19th of December 2014. It's an RPG game that took some inspiration from Five Nights at Fuckboys, which yes, Five Nights at Fuckboys as well as its sequel was released in 2014. However though, there is a lot to cover with those games and are best suited for their own video. At the start of the game you get a message from Hey It's Joe B, then known as JR Games. It says that this was actually their second FNaF fan game, although there isn't any other FNaF fan games listed on their game jolt. I have no idea what other FNaF fan games they made, but it's most likely lost. The game takes place at the FNaF 1 location where you play as Mike Schmidt. You can walk around the pizzeria. There isn't collision on some of the objects, so you can just walk through the tables and some of the walls. You're supposed to go to the backstage where you'll find a stairway to the power supply. You then have to pull a lever to turn off the power in the building. When you return to the dining room, the animatronics have disappeared. You then go to a door in the dining room to see that it's been opened. Yeah, in this FNaF 1 map, there is another room between the dining room and the office, so what's inside it? A really long hallway where you get chased by Freddy. All you have to do is just run down a straight hallway. When you leave the hallway, you end up back at the office. For a second, Bonnie and Freddy appear at your doors before disappearing. I don't know if this is a glitch or intentional. Mike is now worried that more animatronics could be lurking. You then go back to the dining room to find that there is a hole in the wall. When you go through the hole, you end up in a cave. Yeah, there's a secret cave in the FNaF 1 location. Inside the cave there is fucking coffins, in the words of Mike. Not like I'm bothered by this or anything, but there's quite a lot of profanity in these old FNaF fan games. This is because in 2014, no one really cared about how edgy the content is in your FNaF fan game. Like, no one tried cancelling Sable Catmire and Joshua Shaw over Five Nights at Fuckboys. Keep in mind as well that just 2 months before this game's release, it was commonly believed that Five Nights at Freddy's 1 was based off a real Chuck E. Cheese shooting, yet it was still the most popular game at the time. When FNaF became more popular during the FNaF 3 era, profanity became quite rare in FNaF fan games, and it became even less common as the years went on. Okay, now that I'm done with my tangent on censorship in FNaF fan games, let's continue with the game. So the coffins carry the corpses of Markiplier, Entone the Pack, and Jacksepticeye, because this game came out in 2014. There is another coffin that says Mike Schmidt. This freaks him out and makes him want to get out of the pizzeria. Before Mike leaves the cave, he hears Bonnie and Chica talking. Yes, the animatronics talk in this game. Then you enter a room of hallways, and Bonnie and Chica are chasing you. Although the AI is bugged so that if you run into the next hallway before them, they'll start following you in the direction you're going, but won't ever catch you. There are 2 dead ends made to catch you off guard, but again, you can easily outrun the animatronics. After you escape Bonnie and Chica, you end up in the throne room where Freddy is king, and he talks to you like he's Ganon from one of those shitty CDI Zelda games.
You dare bring light to my lair? You must die!
Freddy tells Mike that he'll let him live if he can challenge Foxy. What does he mean by challenge Foxy? He means run away from a retarded Foxy who will run in the wrong direction. After surviving Foxy, you are teleported to a hellish room with Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy. They then start saying, save them, die, 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 die. Then the screen goes black and he starts saying Mike's name over and over. Then Mike wakes up to find that it was all just a dream and he slept on the job. Wow, this game predicted the FNaF movie and the dream theory. The person calling Mike was actually his boss who came by to give him his paycheck. Mike then yells out, gimme that, I quit. No ifs, ands, or buts, I am done. Then Mike leaves the pizzeria. You then get a closing crawl. Mike left the pizzeria and later got married and had a few kids, and a few years later, Freddy's closed down for health issues. You then get a thank you message from JR Games. Not really much to say about this game, it's not very long and has basically no challenge to it, and it's loaded with exploits and glitches. Now let's move on to another 2D free roam FNaF fan game. This one wasn't an RPG though, it is called Project Freddy. The game was made by Data Sushi, who fun fact would later be the voice actor of Peter Wright in Dormitabus.
It appears I found you. If not, I'm probably just wasting my time with this call, but it's worth a try.
The game began development in December 2014. There were 5 demos released before its cancellation in March 2015. Only 3 demos are still available though. The first 3 demos were uploaded onto Mediafire. One of those demos are now lost. One that is available is a Better Textures demo, which sounds like it's a second demo, but it's actually the first one. There were 4 demos released after this one, with the last one being titled Demo 5, so unless Data Sushi can't count to 5, this is actually the first demo. The second demo is called Project Christmas, which is just a Better Textures demo but with a festive theme to it. So what happens in this game? You play as Jeff Campbell, who is working as a night guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is the FNaF 1 location. You go around the location interacting with stuff. In the restroom you'll find a big puddle of blood. When you turn back you'll find that Freddy has left the stage. If you walk towards the backstage you'll hear a glass shatter sound. When you go back to the office, you'll see broken glass on the floor. You'll also see that Freddy got in the office. When you get close to Freddy, he runs away from you. Or at least that's what happened to most people. Because for me, Freddy actually jump scares you if you get close, and you get stuffed into a Freddy suit. I believe this is a bug that was patched in the next demo, as it did fix bugs. I think what happened here is that later on in the game, there is a bit where you can die, and there was already a kill sequence made for it at this point. If Freddy doesn't kill you, you then go to the backstage where you'll find Freddy. Then it turns to 6 AM, then the demo ends. There was a third demo released on the 23rd of December 2014. However, this demo is now lost, but we do have a lot of videos of it. This new version added Golden Freddy in the backstage, whose eyes glow when you get close to him. This also fixed bugs and grammar mistakes. There were 2 demos released in 2015, which I'll briefly go over. The 4th demo was released on the 11th of January 2015, which is now lost. This actually had a night 2. This version has an Easter egg where you might find the purple guy sprite in the menu instead of Golden Freddy. This version added doors that you can close and gave you the ability to sprint. At the start of night 2, when you walk to the stage, you'll see that Bonnie is not there. When you go to the restroom, you'll find that Bonnie is there. If you get too close to Bonnie, he'll chase you, but it has been known that Bonnie can also kill you in the same way Freddy did in the first demo. You're supposed to run to the office and close the right door. When you do that, the demo ends. Night 2 was never finished, so you can't actually win. Data Sushi said in the game drop post that you can actually get killed by Foxy in Night 2, but I've not seen any footage of this happening, so he might have just meant if you touch Foxy in Pirate Cove. The final demo was released in March of 2015. It just had updated graphics and added a phone call. And yes, the phone guy is voiced by Data Sushi.
Sorry if I sound kind of unprofessional. I'm kind of new at this, but the company is telling me to record messages for the new employees.
Now I'm going to be talking about another lost FNaF fan game. In fact, this game is part of a series which is completely lost, and that is Foxy's Life. The game was made by Blake Brayton. The first game was released sometime in December 2014. Luckily there are videos that show the full game, as it wasn't very long. This is one strange game. It's not really got an objective to it. It's mostly just made up of mini-games. In the game you play as Foxy. It starts off with Foxy behind the curtains. A kid is there and is excited to see Foxy. You can open the curtains and go up to the kid. If you touch a kid, it plays a cutscene end sound from FNaF 2. In the next minigame you play as a purple guy. You're in a room with a dead child and a Foxy mask. Next to them is a button that says build. When you click it, you get another minigame where you play as Foxy. You're in a room with withered Bonnie. You go up to Bonnie and you give him his face. Then you're at Pirate Cove. When you touch the curtains, you'll go to the next scene where you're behind the curtains and there's 3 kids cheering you. When you open the curtains, you are told to walk to the kids. Then Foxy bites one of the kids in the frontal lobe, committing the bite of 87. At the time, many believe that the bite victim was actually a kid and not Jeremy Fitzgerald. After that, it says a few days later. Then the purple guy comes in and puts up a sign that says, "Sorry, out of order." The background then changes from white to black, meaning it's probably nighttime. Foxy then starts walking around the pizzeria. Before the next scene, you get the Foxy jump scare from FNaF 1. You then find a crying child who says, "Don't hurt me, Foxy." Now, I think this child is actually supposed to be the security guard. Yes, this is a child sprite, but he seems to have a night guard outfit, and this is supposed to take place during night shift. Then you get a withered Foxy jump scare. You then see the security guard lying on the floor with blood in his eyes. So did Foxy bite him? How come he doesn't have a bite mark in his head? Then you go back to Pirate Cove and it plays a 6 AM sound. Then Foxy runs out of Pirate Cove and then it stops being a 2D game and you're now at the FNaF 1 SFM map. You can walk around the pizzeria. When you get close to the stage, Freddy will stare at you. Then it cuts back to a 2D style. Then you're once again behind the curtains. Then Freddy comes up to you and says, "Foxy, you are no longer needed. We shall now destroy you." Here you control Foxy's hands and make him attack the animatronics. I don't know, just wave his hands about. After fighting off Freddy, Bonnie appears, then Chica appears, and then you get a Splinks jump scare. Then it cuts to Foxy next to the stage with Freddy, Bonnie and Chica. Then it cuts to the suits of Freddy, Bonnie and Chica and Foxy and 5 dead kids. Then the purple guy just runs past. Then it cuts back to Foxy at Pirate Cove. You leave Pirate Cove and go to a party room with kids. It then cuts to Foxy next to a puppet in a music box. It then cuts to an image of the prize corner. Then it cuts to Foxy and a puppet in front of a black screen. In the next minigame you play as a puppet. When you touch Foxy you get an image of the puppet that says "It's me." And that's the end of this fever dream of a game. Like I said, there's more games in this series, but they came out in 2015. These games are all lost. These are very obscure games, so I don't know how likely they are to ever get found, but I do hope they get found someday. So all these games I've talked about have had a very small impact on the FNaF community, and most people forgot about them shortly after their release. The next game I'm going to be talking about, however, though, is what kickstarted the FNaF fan game trend, and is arguably the most influential FNaF fan game of all time. You all know what it is, it's Five Nights at Treasure Island. The game was made by Anna in 1996. It was inspired by the Abandoned by Disney creepypasta by Slime Beast. The setting of Abandoned by Disney and Five Nights at Treasure Island was based off a real abandoned island located in Bay Lake, Florida, known as Discovery Island. It was originally known as Treasure Island when it first opened in 1974. It was part of the Walt Disney World Resort as a wildlife park. Discovery Island was closed in 1999 and has been left abandoned ever since. The development of this game is quite infamous. It began development in October 2014. It was released as a demo on the 1st of December 2014. The next day, the demo was updated, which added a night 2. 3 more demos were released during 2015, titled Five Nights at Treasure Island Remastered 1.0, 2.0 and 3.0. In July 2015, Anarch gave the game to the Purity Sinners, who worked on the last 2 demos. Despite the game not even being finished yet, there are plans for a sequel to FNaF called Unreleased and a spin-off by Stellar Wisps called Nightmare Before Disney. Stellar Wisps and Blackout were later given the rights to FNaF in 2016. They tried finishing the game with 4.0, but would later cancel it. Then in 2017, Anarch came back once again and tried to finish FNaF, and it would be called 5.0. In October 2017, a demo was released. The game would later get cancelled. In 2018, the rights to FNaF were then passed over to Nocturna, who was part of a development team known as Radiance, who would later finish the game in November 2020 as 6.0. They would also finish Oblivious Casa in November 2022. However, though 6.0 is no longer considered canon, and there is a new version in development right now called 6.5. If you want to know all about this series, I'd recommend watching a video by Sir55, which goes into detail about every FNaF game that was at one point official. Anyway, let's talk more about the very first version of the game. Let's talk about the main menu first. It's a standard menu with a black screen background with the main antagonist and static covering it. This antagonist is Photonegative Mickey, who is from Abandoned by Disney. What's creepy about this menu though is that if you stare at the menu for too long, you'll get an Easter egg. The music intensifies before eventually stopping. Then Photonegative Mickey looks at you and asks, "Wanna see my head come off?" Then you get jump scared and it takes you to night 1. A very disturbing fact here, the deep voice heard in the menu is actually a real 911 call but lower pitched. The 911 call was of a guy who had his leg amputated in a baler machine. The 911 call was actually uploaded onto YouTube by the guy who had his leg amputated, who goes under the name Crew9T. What's interesting is that he actually found out that his 911 call was used in FNaF. Apparently Anarch reached out to him asking if he can use it in the game, which he never got back to, so he decided to use it anyway. Crew9T didn't seem to mind that the call was used in the game, even though he didn't get permission. What's funny though is apparently Anarch felt bad about this and asked Crew9T if he wanted to test FNaF 1.0. I couldn't find out if he took the offer, but I'm guessing he probably didn't since he wasn't a FNaF fan. Anyway, now onto the actual game. You play as Jake Smith, who is part of the Supernatural Studies Association. He's been sent to investigate Discovery Island. On night 1 you get a phone call from Greg McLaughlin, who tells you how to survive against Photonegative Mickey, who is the only enemy active on night 1. Photonegative Mickey is blind, so a loud noise in another room will lure him away from you. If he enters your office, you have to shut off a camera. When you shut off a camera, he'll go to whatever camera you shut off. Mickey's movement is random, so he could just teleport to your office at any moment. For a 2014 FNaF fan game, this looks bloody amazing. The FNaF location was the first iconic location from a FNaF fan game, with a Gmod map being made of it in January 2015. This might have been the first FNaF fan game where the animatronics actually audibly talk. Whenever they move, they will say something in a creepy voice. "Wanna see my head come off?" It has a very different feel to the FNaF games, but still manages to feel intense. Well, at least when it first came out. While this game still holds up visually, this is still a 2014 FNAF fan game. The first version of Five Nights at Treasure Island is very unstable. Photonegative Mickey can't attack you unless you're looking at your camera, but his AI is still running, which leads to a lot of problems. He might kill you without even appearing in the office or after you shut off a camera when he does attack you, but you can also completely cheat the game by doing nothing. On night 2, you get a phone call from Lisa Birch who tells you about Oswald. Oswald acts mostly the same as Photonegative Mickey. The only difference is that he has a different movement pattern and is more difficult to see due to him being a darker colour. There's also Disembodied, who is a Donald Duck head with black eyes, who's also buggy as fuck. Sometimes turning off a camera won't work when he appears in your office. This isn't a huge issue since he won't kill you, he instead will just make a loud obnoxious noise and speed up the other suits. But again, you can just beat the game by doing nothing. When you beat night 2, you get a message from Anna to say that the game is still in development and that more content will be coming soon. The original Five Nights at Treasure Island is a product of its time. While it's not a good game now, it is still the most influential FNAF fan game. Not only did this game pioneer FNAF fan games, but Five Nights at Treasure Island had a big fan base even after its initial cancellation, with there being many popular FNAF fan games being made. To this day, there is still a lot of dedicated fans of FNAF, with many looking forward to version 6.5. Now I'm going to talk about a popular FNAF fan game that got released in 2015, but you may not be aware that a demo was released back on the 22nd of December 2014. And that game is Five Nights at Sheepy's. The game was made by Sheepy King, who is a Spanish YouTuber with nearly 300,000 subscribers. He is best known for his dubs of various Blina Productions videos and videos of the Living Tombstones FNAF songs with Spanish subtitles. So this game is in Spanish and wasn't translated into English, so I don't know the names of any of the characters besides Sheepy. There's also a phone call at the start of the game which I couldn't understand.
De seguridad. ¿Que quién soy? Soy el anterior guardia de seguridad que trabajaba ahí, ¿sabes? Y estoy aquí para decirte de que no hay nada que preocuparse. Estarás bien.
The game opens up with a cutscene where it zooms in on a stage which has Sheepy and a blue pony. For those who weren't around during the FNAF 1 and 2 era, a lot of FNAF fans were also MLP fans during this period, which led to a lot of fan crossovers, this being one of them. The demo only contains one night, so Five Nights at Sheepy's is actually a free roam FNAF fan game that has you survive from 12 AM till 6 AM. So if you don't count FNAF 3D, this could be considered the first free roam FNAF fan game. However, it plays out more like a Roblox game where the animatronics just teleport around and you have to avoid touching them. You start off in an office which looks similar to the FNAF 1 office. You can close the door and use a light. You can leave the office and walk around the pizzeria. You've got a camera system which you can view at any time. You don't have to worry about power usage. Now I do like the look of the location, it does have an unnerving atmosphere to it. This is actually a really big map full of hallways, you could get lost quite easily. So there's a lot of enemies in this game, but many are immobile and only kill you if you touch them. The active enemies are Sheepy, the blue pony, a grey pony and an enderman. Sheepy and the blue pony act the same, they'll just teleport around the location and will kill you if you get too close to them. When you first enter the dining room, Sheepy will run past. The enderman is the main threat, he acts like the puppet, you have to wind up a music box, you have to walk over to the music box to wind it up. I only encountered the grey pony after winding up the music box. They'll walk towards you when you leave by going down the hallway. All you've got to do is quickly go to the parts and service room next to the hallway and they'll just walk past. This game's parts and service room is weird. It has a withered grey pony and photonegative Mickey. This game is a fever dream. There's also this cartoon character on the floor who I don't recognise, but I'm guessing it's not an original character. If you touch any of these characters, they'll kill you. There's also a withered Sheepy who doesn't have any AI whatsoever. So Sheepy is obviously an OC of Sheepy King. I don't know if the ponies are also OCs of Sheepy King or someone else. This demo is very dated. The cameras and doors are practically useless. The animatronics are very easy to avoid by just simply walking away from them. This is during the experimental era of free roam FNAF fan games, when the concept was to just make a free roam version of FNAF 1 or 2 but not altering the animatronics AI. Here's how you beat the game. You just have to leave the office to wind up the music box, then come back to the office where you're safe from the animatronics, then wait a bit, then go to wind up the music box again. There's a bug where the enderman won't actually kill you if you stay still. However, this doesn't work because when you reach 6 AM, you're supposed to leave the pizzeria through a door next to the office. When you leave, you get an animation of the animatronics all dancing to a metal remix of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I guess this makes sense because the demo came out around Christmas time. The full version of the game was released in February 2015, and the sequel was later released in July of 2015. The sequel played out like a sit and survive game. It wasn't nearly as popular as its predecessor though. Now I'm going to be talking about the last influential FNaF fan game to come out in 2014, and this would be the second most influential FNaF fan game of all time behind Five Nights at Treasure Island. On the 6th of December 2014, Scott Cawthon released a teaser on scottgames.com which said offline. When brightened, you can see the number 3, implying that Five Nights at Freddy's 3 was in development. Later, on the 23rd of December 2014, a fan-made Five Nights at Freddy's 3 was released. The game was made by Tyler Ulstrom. The game was made up of reused assets from FNaF 1 and 2, which became a very common visual style for FNaF fan games in 2015. The game opens with a cutscene. In this cutscene you're in the FNaF 2 office. You can hear a creepy voice singing Ring Around the Roses. Later on you get the Night 4 phone call in FNaF 1.
Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back.
Towards the end of the phone call you get a Golden Freddy jump scare, who is the Freddy power outage jump scare but recolored yellow and has blacked out eyes. There's an Easter egg during the cutscene where if you click Toy Freddy's nose on a Celebrate poster, you'll get an eyeless Foxy screen that'll crash your game. This game actually doesn't automatically save your game after beating a night, so if you exit the game, you'll lose all your progress, unless you save the game in the menu. When you press new game, you get a news article saying that the animatronics at Freddy Fazbear's have been fixed. It is mentioned that 4 children were murdered and 1 is missing. The news article has an image of Freddy, which is reused fan art by Nexus Drakeson. Something you probably already knew is that this game was controversial for its stolen fan art. We'll talk a bit more about its reused fan art later on. The game's office is a FNaF 1 office. The cameras are mostly from FNaF 1, 2 of them are from FNaF 2 though, those being the right vent and the prize corner, which have been renamed the party room and the ceiling vent. Animatronics from FNaF 1 and 2 return, those being Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy and the puppet. The animatronics designs are inconsistent. Sometimes it's a camera render from FNaF 1, sometimes it's a withered variant from FNaF 2. When Bonnie appears in the office, she is withered Bonnie but has a face. This was taken from a fan-made image by Fruity Tooty Booty Bear, who photoshopped withered Freddy's face onto withered Bonnie. Also, Bonnie is female in this game. This actually makes sense within the lore, as the animatronics are supposed to have been fixed. There is actually a few new enemies, the most infamous one being Sugar the Cat, who is just Emil Mako's Candy the Cat but renamed and gender swapped. Emil Mako demanded that Tyler removed Sugar from the game, in which he did in a later version of the game. Every animatronic is almost the exact same thing. They'll eventually reach your office. When they get there, you have to wear the mask until they leave. In this game, the mask actually has a toxic meter, which was a scrap mechanic in FNaF 2. Sometimes the toxic meter doesn't work though. So, the mask is a bit weird. When someone enters your office, you can't wear the mask straight away, or else they'll kill you. Instead, you have to wait 1 second and then wear the mask. And this isn't a bug, by the way. The phone guy literally tells you to do this.
If they went to your office, don't put the mask on instantly when you first show up or at work.
There's also doors which you can open and close, however it does fuck all. And again, this is something that the phone guy acknowledges.
So I don't think the doors and lights really matter now. You know, they don't really work.
In a later version of the game, the doors are broken and can't be opened. It would have made more sense though if the doors were open and couldn't be closed. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 fan made is often considered to be one of the worst FNaF fan games of all time. In my opinion though, this is one of the best FNaF fan games to come out in 2014. And even putting that aside, I've still played countless FNaF fan games that I would consider worse. Don't get me wrong, this is a boring game, not only because everyone does the same thing, but the AI is scripted. Here's what happens. The puppet starts off in a party room, then he'll leave to the show stage to give life to Bonnie. When this happens, you'll get a warning that an animatronic is about to become active. Also, the puppet is male in this game, but back then everyone assumed the puppet was male. Then the puppet will attack you, then Bonnie will attack you, then the puppet will go back to the show stage and give life to Freddy. After Freddy attacks, the puppet will then give life to Chica. Then after that, Foxy will become active. When Foxy enters the office, it's a frame from his jump scare from FNaF 1, and if you have the door shut, he just clips through the door. You can flash your light in cam 3 and cam 2B to see if anyone's there. You have limited flashlight battery, which is completely pointless since you don't even need to use a flashlight. Also, there's power usage, but I've been playing this game for 10 years now, and I've never once run out of power. On night 5, Golden Freddy and Withered Balloon Boy become active. They'll both appear in your office after Foxy attacks. You just have to wear the mask if you see them. Withered Balloon Boy, whose design is taken from Fazbear, will crash your game instead of jump scaring you. You better have been saving your game, because if you die to Withered withered balloon boy, you will lose all your progress. Now let's address the fattest elephant in the room. Scott Cawthon contacted Tyler Ahlstrom and told him to change the title of the game, and on the 5th of January 2015, the game was renamed The Return to Freddy's. The Return to Freddy's would become the most popular FNaF fan game series of 2015, with there being 3 more games released, each having a huge impact on FNaF fan games. So why is this game called The Return to Freddy's? Well, let's talk about the lore. In this game you play as Mike Schmidt. The game takes place on the 12th of November 2015, which is crazy as it may sound, that was almost a year into the future when this game came out. Mike first worked at Freddy's in 1994, which is when the first Five Nights at Freddy's game took place in this universe. With Mike Schmidt coming back to work at Freddy's, he is returning to Freddy's. At the end of each night you get a cutscene which shows you in the office wearing a mask with his power out. On the night 2 cutscene, Freddy is at the left door. In the night 3 cutscene, Bonnie is at the right door. In the night 4 cutscene, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy are all at the doors. Then a shadow puppet wearing a fedora pops up. This character is named Shadow Lockjaw, who is a shadow variant of Lockjaw, who would later become one of the most recognisable FNaF fan game characters and the mascot of the Return to Freddy series. At the start of each night you get a phone call. The phone guy's name was originally Fritz Smith, before later being renamed to Vincent. Vincent is actually this game's purple guy. At this point it was commonly believed that the phone guy was a purple guy in FNaF. The phone guy is voiced by Tyler Ahlstrom himself. In the night 1 phone call he tells you the animatronics have been fixed and they used to act weird around the adults.
And all animatronics have been fixed and no longer act unusual around adults now.
It is mentioned that Bite of 87 is a canon event.
I'm glad the whole Bite of 87 is behind us now.
In the night 2 phone call, Vincent tells you that the animatronics have been acting aggressive with them having faulty wiring.
The animatronics are acting up again. During the day, the CEO had the engineers work on the animatronics. Every time they act up, they look around to check on the place. Then go to assist a reboot after they're done.
In the night 3 phone call, Vincent warns you about Sugar the cat, who will attack from the ceiling vent.
You know what? Just don't let him in the vents, okay? He is quite small.
What's funny is that he doesn't actually refer to the animatronic as Sugar, so when Sugar was later removed, this phone call still makes sense. He also tells you the animatronics have been removing their own body parts.
They saw tear marks in the animatronics. The explanation theory is that they tear themselves apart.
In the night 4 phone call, Vincent just talks about how much of a dump the place is and tells you how you make coffee. In the night 5 phone call, Vincent tells you that he's being followed by a ghost and then he starts panicking.
I don't know how much longer I'll last. I keep hearing whispers in my head saying my son and why. I'm scared, Mike. I don't know what to do. I don't know why it's me. It's always me.
And then, say it with me, he fucking dies.
Please.
So, who killed Vincent? Well, that is something that was expanded on in later installments of The Return to Freddy's. There's a minigame in a teaser game for the cancelled Return to Freddy's 5, which shows a child known as Kitty Fazcat who stabs Vincent while he is on the phone. However, though, in the novel, The Dreadful Truth, he was actually killed by a ghost of a woman named Linda. The Dreadful Truth was the latest installment of the Return to Freddy's lore, so we can credit this as being the definitive answer. When you beat Night 5, you get a paycheck that I've already talked about. There is a Night 6 and Night 7. Night 7 is just a custom night, but Night 6 actually does have stuff to talk about. But first, I'd like to go over some secret minigames you can get when you die. You can also access them by entering codes in a custom night. One of them has you play as Freddy. You see Golden Freddy walk past. You then follow Golden Freddy into another room. This room shows a puddle of blood next to a child. This child is named BFP, which is a reference to Tyler's username at the time, BFP Films 424. Also, Kitty Fazcat is BFP's girlfriend, who is a reference to Tyler's girlfriend at the time who went under the name Kitty Fazcat. BFP possesses a puppet. The puppet goes up to Freddy and the minigame ends. Another minigame has you play as Golden Freddy, who by the way is just Freddy but recolored yellow and has black eyes. You walk into a room with 5 kids. Text flashes on the screen that says "It's me," while Golden Freddy flashes into Vincent, implying that Golden Freddy is Vincent in a suit. Then you get jump scared by Golden Freddy. Another minigame has you play as BFP. You're in a room with a big music box. If you touch a music box, text pops up that says "I'm sorry," and then shortly afterwards you get jump scared by a puppet. Another minigame has you play as Vincent, who goes up to a Golden Freddy suit. When when he touches a Golden Freddy suit, his eyes glow and you get jump scared by Golden Freddy. There's another minigame where you play as Vincent. In this one he's on the phone and it plays a Night 4 phone call from FNaF 1. Then you get a Golden Freddy jump scare. Another minigame you can get is a copy of a Take Cake minigame in FNaF 2, with the only difference being is that a child who gets murdered is BFP. The last minigame I'll be talking about has you play as Sugar. You're surrounded by 6 kids who you have to give gifts to. There's this one guy in blue who is watching. This guy's name is Emil Mako. After a while, the kids become angry and get closer to Sugar. Then you get a Shadow Lockjaw jump scare which is exclusive to this minigame. And lastly, let's talk about Night 6. There's 2 new enemies active on Night 6. One of them is Shadow Doug, who replaces Withered Balloon Boy, who is not active on this night. This is another Shadow variant of who would become an original animatronic in the Return to Freddy series. The other enemy active is actually Vincent, who is wearing a Golden Freddy suit. Before he attacks, he'll bang on your doors. Then you'll get a hallucination. When you beat Night 6, you get a news article that says that Fred Smith, as he was known as at the time, was banging on Mike's door and was later arrested. Mike Schmidt also quit his job. Now, there is a glaring issue with this plot point. Vincent is supposed to be dead, yet he is somehow alive and an active threat on Night 6. This plot point would later be retconned and was not mentioned anywhere in The Dreadful Truth. So that's the end of FNaF 3 fan-made or The Return to Freddy's. This was probably the first complete high-quality FNaF fan game, and yes, at the time this was considered high quality. This game is very dated, but doesn't have many bugs, and it's actually a playable game, and it did have some unique elements for the time. And this would kickstart Photoshop FNaF fan games, which is probably what half the 2015 FNaF fan games were, and it was the start of the most influential FNaF fan game series of all time. So that's every 2014 FNaF fan game that I'm going to be covering in this video. There are obviously a lot that I didn't mention, many are now lost to time. And while most of these games had no impact on FNaF, it's still interesting to look at some of the first FNaF fan games ever made. None of these developers would have thought that FNaF fan games would have taken over the horror genre the following year, and that 10 years later, people would still be making FNaF fan games. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.
Three of us there, and we sat there and stared. The janitor took away our contented looks. He stopped and he pushed us into wireframe suits. He ran from the lot while he left us to rot.
Camera 1 and 2 and 3, I swear to God they're after me. I see the faces on the screen, but nowhere they are to be seen. Lock the doors and keep it shut, don't let them